Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Once Upon a Time in America is a crime film that was co-written and directed by Italian filmmaker Sergio Leone. It stars Robert De Niro and James Woods. It was an Italian-American venture that was produced by the Ladd Company, Embassy International Pictures, PSO Enterprises, and got distributed by Warner Brothers. It's based on a novel by Harry Gray that was called The Hoods, and it chronicles the lives of best friends Noodles and Max as they lead a group of Jewish ghetto youths who rise to prominence as Jewish gangsters in New York City. The movie explores themes of childhood friendships, love, lust, greed, betrayal, loss, broken relationships, all with the rise of mobsters in American society. This was the final film that was directed by Leone before his death 5 years later. And it was the first film that he had directed in 13 years. Leone had read this novel by Harry Gray back in the mid-60s. And in 1968, after shooting Once Upon a Time in the West, Leone made a lot of efforts to talk to Gray. Having enjoyed Leone's Dollars trilogy, Gray finally responded and agreed to meet at a Manhattan bar. Following that initial meeting, Leone met with Gray several other times throughout the remainder of the 60s and the 70s, having discussions with him to understand America through Gray's point of view. Filming started in June of 1982 and eventually ended in April the next year. The locations where filming took place were in and around the U.S., Canada, Italy, and France, with a focal point in New York City. The interior scenes were mostly filmed in Rome at Cincinnati Studios. By the time everything was said and done, Leone had over 10 hours worth of footage that had to be edited. He and his editor trimmed that footage down to around 6 hours, with the plan of releasing the film as 2 3-hour movies. The producers refused this idea, and Leone had to further cut the film down to 3 hours and 49 minutes. A few days before the film's premiere in 1984, it was found out that the studio was only going to release a 2-hour version that would be shown in theaters. They knew that nobody would understand the movie if it was shortened down to that version. Indeed, the film didn't do well in theaters at all and was completely shut out at the Oscars and received no nominations. When the movie came out in video format, they released the 3-hour and 49-minute version. That caused it to ultimately find commercial and critical success. Now, in reality, the cut-down version of 3 hours and 49 minutes was still not what Sergio Leone wanted. He wanted a cut that was 4 hours and 10 minutes. He felt like there were some real essential parts that were left on the cutting room floor. Joe Pesci originally auditioned for the role of Max, but Leone convinced him that he wouldn't be quite right for that role. As a favor to Pesci's friend, De Niro, Leone told him that he could pick whatever available roles he wanted for himself instead. He chose the part of Frankie, which was considerably larger in the original script than it ended up being in the finished movie. It's said that during filming, Leone hailed Robert De Niro as a much better actor than Clint Eastwood. Leone had used Clint Eastwood in quite a few films in the 60s. But Leone was really kind of jealous at this time because Eastwood was getting more directorial claim than he was. Eventually, after all this, Leone made his peace with Eastwood and he retracted the statements that he made about him. During the production shoot in Rome, some of the cast members got really snockered on wine one night and sat around a table trying to imagine where they would each be in the future. Rusty Jacobs, predicted that Elizabeth McGovern would have 2 children, work in England, and be wearing tight pants. In 1992, she married an Englishman and had 2 daughters. She lives in the UK, and occasionally you'll see photos of her wearing tight pants when she's playing with her band, Sadie and the Hotheads. Producer Arnon Milchan, who was Elizabeth McGovern's lover at the time, has a cameo appearance as a chauffeur in the film. In an interview one time, he described that experience. He said in the scene where Robert De Niro assaults Elizabeth in the back seat of the limousine after she informs him that she's leaving and moving to Hollywood to realize her dream, this ended up being a pretty complicated scene. And De Niro made the suggestion that the producer play the role of the limousine driver. He didn't really want to do it. He was pretty skeptical about it because he felt like he just wasn't an actor and didn't think he would do a good job at it. There were 4 pages of text in that scene, and it was not inconsequential. The idea eventually caught on, and Leone conducted a formal audition with the producer, kind of making his skepticism suddenly disappear, and he found himself wanting to play the role more than anything in his life. That shoot of that scene took 13 takes to get it down. Leone literally showed Robert De Niro how to assault Elizabeth, and then he would ask De Niro to physically repeat his instructions before filming commenced. The limousine driver got so flustered by the repeated takes that he forgot to do half the stuff he was supposed to. He was so upset about this happening repeatedly to his girlfriend who was in the back seat, and he had to live through 13 takes of it. Even though he knew it was just a movie, it seemed real in his mind. He felt the experience was a complete humiliation and exhilarating at the same time. For the scenes where young Noodles spies on the nude young Deborah, an actress named Margarita Pace was credited as Jennifer Connelly's body double. According to some rumors at the time, Connelly herself had done this scene, but those sequences were trimmed out. Eventually, in 2021, Connelly confirmed that she wasn't in any of those scenes at all, because you see, at that time, she was only 11 years old. Take a look at this fantastic film from Sergio Leone. It's a good one. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.